All right, today I want to talk about the OpenShot video editor. It's open source and free and all that jazz. So that comes with all the pros and cons of using open source software. One of the pros is that it's free and you can distribute it as you wish. It's free as in speech, it's free as in beer. One of the cons is that, like a lot of open source software, it's usually not as slick, and they can be a little bit more buggy because there's not a paid staff to sit around and work on this stuff. It's all people volunteering. Anyhow, if you don't have something else, OpenShot, you can do a lot with it. I am only beginning to learn it myself, but so far it's turned out to be well worth the price. It's really good. I've been fairly impressed with it. So anyhow, if you want to get it, go to openshot.org, go to download, and pick your operating system, which I have already downloaded it. I'm going to install it. Excuse me. And I've downloaded it to here. So this is me installing it. Maybe. Let's see, did that? Yeah, that let me keep recording. Go through all the steps here. I accept the agreement. Basically, this is the new general public license. Boilerplate stuff. If anything happens, they're not responsible. And then go through all the basic steps here. You're going to associate the OSP, and it's going to add an exception to your firewall. I'm not crazy about that, but sometimes it has to be done, especially if it's going to do updates and whatnot. If you don't feel comfortable, turn that off, but most likely it will start asking you and bugging you because it needs to do something, connect for whatever purpose, and I don't know. You can experiment with that if you want. So here we go. I've installed OpenShot. I'm opening it up. Slowly. So I will say that I've noticed with this software, it's very sluggish. Again, it's free. So, it's kind of a trade-off there. But for basic video editing, and if you're clever, you can do some pretty nice video editing with this. This is what you're going to get when you open it up. Let's see. Let me turn off that. I apologize. I've left that overlay. And you're going to get all these tutorial windows. Awesome. Yeah. I recommend just thumbing through them. They're not, a lot of them out of context are going to be like, what am I looking at? But just read them, and then later on in the abstract will become concrete, and you're like, oh, right, yeah, it made a comment about this. So I'm going to hide that. And this is our interface. Right out of the gate, I want to tell you, if you go to View, Views, you go to Advanced View, it's going to go ahead and display a lot of options that aren't on your standard view, on your basic view. And a lot of programs do this basically so they can guide you into learning the software. They say, hey, here's a simple version of the software or simple interface of the software so that you're not overwhelmed. You can see what's really important, the timeline, the preview window. Then as you get more and more comfortable with software, you start adding more of the windows to it and more of the panels. And you can see, like, if you've worked with video software, you look at this and go, okay, that makes sense. But if you haven't, this is just like, this is a bunch of junk on the screen. So I'm going back to View, going to Simple View. All right, and we're going to start a video project. First and foremost, I'm going to save. I hit Control S. You can go to File menu, or if you're on Mac, I think it's Command S. I still want to say Open Apple S because that's what we said back in the day, because that's what it was. For me, I'm going to go down. I've got a UTM folder. I've got, let's see, this class MUS 371, and this is going to be a C major scale. Hey, I've already made a C major scale tutorial using Premiere, but I'm going to also make a tutorial that we're watching now for OpenShot, doing the same, basically the same video there. So I'm going to call it C major scale. And when I'm working on a project, and I think there's going to be multiple revisions of what, I usually start with revision 0. I sometimes forget to do this, and my first revision is I do a new file, make revision 1. But this is good to have a revision history, so you can kind of go back and address things like, oh, I totally derailed the project here, or I messed up a file, or something corrupted. It's nice to have that revision history. So if at least once a day on projects, because a lot of the projects I work on go for days, weeks, sometimes months. So I need that revision history for reference, and for myself and with other people, because I work with teams of people. But it's never a bad idea to give your files a revision name. Okay, now I've got my C major scale file started. You can change all of your settings, like your resolution and frame rate, but we're not going to get into that. I'm just going to leave it default. Right now, this one's defaulting at 720 at 30 frames per second. So up here in the top left, right here on the title bar, you can see it says HD for high def, 720p, that's 720 progressive scan at 30 frames per second, FPS. So we need some content. Well, you can shoot your own, but if you don't want to, you can go to our Google Drive directory, and I've made some for you. So I should have pulled it up. I jump into making these tutorials and like wing it as I go, right? Now I'm actually doing this on purpose so that you see me going through all the steps in real time and know exactly what I've done. So I can navigate to that directory. What I've done at the beginning of the semester, I made this directory I starred it. So now when I click starred, I can go to what starred, and these are usually like ongoing projects that I'm working on. Right now, this class, MUS 371, it's a starred directory. If you want to star a directory in Google Drive, whether it's whether you own it or whether it's something that someone shared with you, all you have to do is select it and hit S. And sometimes you can right click on it too and get star, like I'm going to right click this, yeah, add to starred. It's a handy feature. You don't have to use it, but it saves me a lot of time. At the end of each semester, I go through and unstar things that I'm done with, like this semester, this class. So what I'm working on is the C major scale. I put the support videos under green screen samples, under 2019-08-03 scales. This is actually a tutorial I did with Corel Video Studio. And if you were paying attention when I first got to the starred directory, there was also a tutorial there with Premiere. So now we're making the one in OpenShot. I'm going to need C2 major MP4. I'm going to download that. Again, I like to download. I set my default on my browser to ask me every time I download something, because I don't want it just to download things. One, sometimes I might download something by accident and not realize it. And two, I want to know exactly where it went. And this allows me to take a little time, take a few extra seconds, and save myself a lot of time. Now, I'm new to OpenShot. Normally, this is where I would create a new subdirectory called assets, but they already created a subdirectory called assets. I'm not going to mess with it. I'm going to go stick with my normal plan and make a directory called assets and save my file. I'm also going to save this other one, Sweet Video Overlay. I'm going to save it to the same directory. Ta-da! All right, so I've got both of those downloaded, and a quick way to go there is just, if you're in Chrome, this little up arrow One of your options is to show, and it pulls up the directory where you saved your file. Okay, so we're done with that. I'm closing out Chrome. Here are my two files. How do I get them into OpenShot? Well, I can come over here, right-click in my project files area and import, or I can take the easy road, which I like, and just drag them in there. Okay, so now I have them in OpenShot. I'm going to save. I'm going to pull in my first video file. Now when I drop it, I can just drag it and pop it wherever. Right now, if this is a video and I hit play spacebar, it's going to be a long, boring video until it gets to the actual file that I put in here. Crazy awesome piano playing. And my other video is this. And again, I can just pull it in, drag it, drop it. And if I hit play, it's going to pick up where I left off. And there's no, notice if I'm hitting spacebar, nothing's happening. There's no more elements in the timeline, so it's done. Now most software, this will go right back to the beginning again. It lets you know you're at the end of all your elements in your timeline. We're starting over, but they haven't got that figured out here yet. So I'm just going to drag my cursor back, or I'm going to hit, no, home doesn't work. Okay, I was just trying something. So spacebar. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Okay, so we're hearing that we're hearing the sweet video overlay, but we're not seeing it. And they're out of time. So there's a couple of things to do here. We've got to synchronize them and put the video overlaying the other video. So you probably guess what we're going to do. I'm going to zoom in. I can zoom in using this little slider bar here, which is interesting how they've got it set up. Or I'm going to come down here and use Control and my scroll wheel. And as I scroll in, it's going to zoom in to wherever my mouse cursor is. So great, now we can see the clips a lot better. We've zoomed in really far, so they look they look longer. But we can't tell, like, timing what's going on. So I'm going to right-click, display, show waveform. Check that out. Right-click, display, show waveform. Aha. We could do it the other way and just like randomly stab in the dark by moving things around until they get in line, but man, that waveform is so helpful. So now that looks like they're probably in line. Let's play it and listen to it. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Yeah, that's, I mean, I recorded those at 2 different times, 2 different locations, and just, they're, you know, off of memory. So they're not perfectly in line. So here we go. We've got them lined up, but they don't start and they don't end together. Well, yuck. So what we can do is we can come in here and grab the end of it and try to align it. And hopefully I've got that in line. But if I want to make sure that I've got both video clips starting at exactly the same point, I put my cursor somewhere. Just drag it. Looks like a little guitar pick. And then I right click, slice. Now it's giving me the option to keep both sides. Slice, what it does is slices, it cuts it. And it's going to cut it and keep both what's before and after the cursor, or I have my option of keeping one side of the cursor. I only want what's on the right side, what comes after my slice. So I'm going to keep the right side. Hey, it trims it right to there. And then I'm going to do the same down here. Without moving my cursor, slice, oops, slice, keep right side. And there may be shortcut keys. I haven't gotten to that. If there are, use them. I strongly recommend using shortcut keys if there is one. I apologize. It's been a rough morning for speaking. The weather's really got me. So again, I move my cursor to the end, slice. This time I'm going to keep the left side, right click on this video, slice, keep left side. Now both my video clips start and stop with exactly the same number of frames, and they should do so in sync. But if we come here, we still see that the overlay video is not overlaying. So I'm going to put it on top of this one. Now, if I do that, you'll see this blue, it's a transition is what it is. So I'm just going to play it and let you see what happens. E, C, D, E, F, G. Okay, so both audios are still playing, but the video itself got transitioned. This blue area represents a transition, and I can adjust this transition and make it however I want. A, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. You kind of see what's going on there. If you don't worry about it. I just wanted to let you know that the transitions automatically apply themselves if you overlap two videos on the same track, but that's not what I want. So I'm trying to get this C major 2 down here and my sweep video up here. This transition, I'm just going to select it and delete it. Transitions like a whole discussion, but they're fun, and you can modify those transitions if you do some transitions. But we're going to keep it simple today. Keep it simple, keep it simple. So now I'm going to start from the beginning. C, D, E. They're in sync. Their correct video is on top, but it covers up the bottom video and it's rotated. What do? Well, let's take this sweet overlay video and look at the properties. I right-clicked on it, and this little panel pops out at the left when I hit properties. Very similar to if we went to the advanced view, right? It's showing me a lot more stuff. This is going back to what I was saying earlier. It's open source, simple software, but it's still powerful. You kind of have to like stand on one foot, pat your head, and rub your stomach, but you can really figure out how to do some pretty cool stuff in here. Now, I need to rotate this video. So I can rotate it. Right here's my rotate, turn it to however I want it, dragging it around, or I double click, type in 90. That was a nice 90-degree rotation. And I don't like where it is. So I'm going to, where'd it go? Location. On the x-axis, I'm going to move it over. It's too big. So I'm going to scale it down, scale it on the x-axis. Well, that's not what I want. There's more what I want. And I'm doing this with a mouse. I usually I go ahead and just type stuff in so it's more accurate. Because sometimes trying to get that pixel motion to get the right number is just not worth it. So now I've resized it, I've moved it. Let's see what happens. Okay, something's going on. Let me rewind. Whoa, what happened there? C, D, E, F, G. Okay, so what I have been doing, what you saw me doing, when I affected when I put the rotation and the location all on there, I was affecting it at that point in time in the video. And whenever you do that, it creates what's called a keyframe. You see all of my properties turn green all of a sudden when I hit this keyframe. I'm using my arrow keys now. That was just a hunch. Arrow keys advance you by one frame. So you see that it has made a keyframe. Everything before this, it starts with where it normally was. And remember, we've trimmed off the video, so it's not starting from the beginning of the video clip. It says, oh, this is a transition here. And now I'm going through with my arrow key, frame by frame. It's moving it from one keyframe to the next and adjusting it to bridge between them, making what we call tweens in between frames. So all that stuff we just did, that's not the way to go about it if you did it that way. So I'm going to reset all this. And I could go through and reset all that stuff. But what I can better do is right click and remove that keyframe. And I know this is like bizarre to wrap your head around, but a keyframe is just that frame in time. If you're not familiar with this, when you're going along the timeline, the keyframe is just some affectation you put in that frame of the video. So I'm going to start from the very beginning, so that everything that I do has already been applied and will persist. So I'm going to rotate it. Rotation, this particular one, since I'm doing a 90 degrees, one of the built-in effects is this, I can right-click the video and then go to rotate 90 degrees. That's really the simpler way to do that. But know that you have the option to rotate any angle that you want to. And then I'm going to go back to what I was doing. Put it over here. I'm going to scale it down to, I don't know, 0.5. That's 50%. And now I'm going to watch it.
A, C, D, E, F, G.
All right, so now we've got a video overlay. It's resized. It's repositioned. Hit and save. Now, great. I've got my video. I've got a meeting, so I have to cut it off right there. Hey, look, I'm wearing the same shirt in the video. This was like a year ago. So what I'm going to do is export this so I can share it with someone, because right now I can't send them the OpenShot file. Even if I did, they don't have the support file, so I have to go up here and export. Most software, a red button means record. Don't know why they used that for this, but they did. So up here, this little red button at the top left, I hit export video, and then I come in here and set what I want it to be. This is all pretty standard fare with everything you work with in other software. Give it a file name, give it a folder path, which is defaulted right now, it looks like, to where I saved my file. That's exactly where I want to export. Sometimes what I will do is, if I know I'm going to be making a lot of these, I make an exports folder. Those settings are fine. We can get into the differences in those later on. And now I'm just going to export the video. Yours may go faster or slower. I don't know. I'm running on a pretty decent machine. Video takes a lot of processing power, but I'm also running a lot of recording software and other things at the same time. So now I'm going back to my, close that out, going back to my exports. I'm going to watch it.
C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C.
Awesome. We have made an MP4 using those overlays. So see how you can do on that. Best of luck. Let me know if you need any help.